Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, deathly serfs, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, comrades. I'm usually at welcome. So Trump and Putin apparently are going to meet tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out because we have some potential compromise issues that are going to be really difficult for both parties, Ukraine and Russia, to accept. And Putin has made that clear that he's very interested in moving forward with a peace plan. He has objected to the idea of a ceasefire, and I think that's legitimate because a ceasefire will only alleviate Ukraine's problem right now because they're losing on the battlefield big time. It's funny to see Zelensky come out and deny that his troops are encircled in Kursk. I tend to believe Putin that Ukrainian troops are encircled in Kursk, and it was a nice side story to see um, Putin acquiesced to Trump's request to spare the lives because Putin has talked about the fact that, as far as he's concerned, these Ukrainian troops in Kursk are guilty of war crimes, and he was ready to pretty much put them down. But moving ahead, of course, Putin objects to the ceasefire because it'll only give Ukraine time to regroup and rearm, and that's a fact. And he has every reason to object to that. We've seen that kind of situation before. And of course, Putin has talked about the same things that Trump is aware of and has talked about that Ukraine will not be joining NATO anytime soon. And the major point of contention is going to be land. And I would suspect that Putin has no reason or no inclination whatsoever to relinquish control of 1/5 of Ukraine that he now controls in these breakaway regions that want to rejoin Russia. And another point that's contentious at this point is the United States pretty much agrees with Putin that there shouldn't be any peacekeepers because they would just be targets. But now we have Britain talking about the fact they want 10,000 peacekeepers in the Ukraine, and it's all good talk. Um, is NATO and the UK really in a position to have 10,000 troops in Ukraine? And once again, they'll be targets. So it could possibly lead to some complicated issues we don't really want to have in Ukraine. And also, Putin has every reason not to trust the West as far as Ukraine's been concerned because all efforts at making peace before and the Minsk agreements and everything else, the West, particularly Europe, is undermined. So Putin definitely has a point that he wants to see something pretty concrete because there's a lot of precedents that show that he may not be able to trust the West. So they're really going to have to come up with something concrete. And as I pointed out, Russia, Trump told Zelensky that he wasn't holding any cards, that the U.S. was holding the cards. And I would argue that Putin is the one holding the cards. So Putin is bargaining in a position of strength. Russian forces are winning on the battlefield, and Zelensky's on the ropes. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if they forge ahead with elections. We'll see if Zelensky gets removed. And they keep bringing up more points. Now Zelensky wants more money in arms, and he wants all these children returned to Ukraine that were taken to Russia. But Trump is pushing Putin to the table. He's threatened more tariffs, and trade is already down. Trade between the United States and Russia was at about 15 to 20 billion about 3 or 4 years ago, and now with all the sanctions and everything else, it's down to about 2.9 billion. So trade is really restricted between the United States and Russia, and I don't know how much further down Trump could push it with more tariffs. But there's also talk of confiscating $350 billion of overseas Russian assets, including treasuries held by Russia. And so that's definitely a threat that Trump could hold over him. But it looks like this is going to move forward, that those measures won't be necessary. And so I guess we'll watch and see what happens tomorrow. I think certainly both the U.S. and Russia would rather move forward with some kind of peace agreement and not just a ceasefire. And Zelensky is in no position to make any conditions whatsoever. So um, he's just going to have to eat it, whatever Russia and the United States come up with, is my feeling. So anyway, as reported in a previous video, I'm really hoping that peace is at hand, and I think Trump is, as he says, a deal maker. He wants what he wants, and it wouldn't surprise me at all within this week that something substantial happens. I'm used to it. Don't you be one too?